Wait, remember the Buzz on Maggie? It was a Disney Channel animated series about the life and experiences of a tween fly in her hometown of Sticky Feet. In each episode, we follow Maggie and her schemes to make her life better, whether that means becoming famous, popular, rich, or seeking more freedom by disobeying her parents. I disobeyed my parents by watching the Fly remake with Jeff Goldblum at a pretty young age. You know what? It all makes sense now. Creator of the show, Dave Polsky, says that the focus of the series is individuality versus conformity, and how Maggie doesn't seem to struggle with conforming to the rest of the bugs around her. Another huge theme for the show is Maggie's constant back and forth struggle with achieving what she wants and not alienating her family and friends in the process. She is very independent and motivated, but this causes her to butt heads a lot with the people around her. She has to learn not to conform to be something different, but to be flexible while still holding her own original shape. In this video, we'll take a look to see if the creators were successful in making a show that allows the main character to be self-centered, but also likable, as that can be a pretty hard line to toe. If you enjoy the video, you better subscribe. Let's take a look at the Buzz on Maggie.
Okay, this is awkward.
The Buzz on Maggie premiered on June 17, 2005 on the Disney Channel. It was about a young fly named Maggie in her day-to-day life in the microscopic suburbs of a trash dump. She lives in a milk carton with her mother, father, older brother Aldrin, younger brother Pupert, and baby sister Bella. Aldrin plays a typical older brother role, constantly teasing Maggie and playing the constant competition game with her. You can tell he's a star athlete because he's always wearing a Letterman jacket. He's pretty popular at school but doesn't seem to let that affect his relationship with his family, so it seems that it stems from genuine confidence. Maggie's younger brother Pupert, or Puppy for short, is easily one of my favorite characters. Having the most unique and scratchy voice, he leaves an impression immediately.
Hey, my pizza!
His naive and loving nature makes him really vulnerable to a lot of Maggie's schemes, but he never seems to let the negativity affect how he views her, because in the end, he's still grateful for the attention that he does get from her. On occasion, Aldrin's competitiveness will motivate him to team up with Puppy to get the better of her. Her little sister Bella is not in a lot of episodes given she's still a baby, or larva, so she doesn't go to school with them or really speak at all. In the episodes where she does make an appearance, she tends to have the episode centered around her relationship with Maggie. In an episode where Maggie uses her to become a sister acting duo in commercials, it's alluded to Bella is a boss baby type of figure, being incredibly intelligent and having nefarious motives, but being able to hide behind the disguise of being a little innocent baby. Maggie herself is a somewhat controversial main character. She rocks pink hair and her aesthetic can be characterized as colorful and funky girl pop. She is always energetic and naturally gifted at almost anything she does. She is able to achieve a lot of her dreams with no problem, like becoming a rock star spelling bee, or becoming an actual rock star. Because she is successful in a lot of her instances, she is able to rely on her skills to scrape by emotionally. She has proven time and time again that she has no problem stepping on her family or friends to get what she wants, but almost always in the end, she learns her lesson. While being selfless or seeing other people's experiences doesn't come naturally to her, it takes a lot of extreme circumstances to get her to see the metaphorical lights of ethics. But I think selfishness is just part of her character as a young 13-year-old. A lot of criticism comes from her actions that she does in the first parts of each episode, like neglect her siblings or lying to her friends, but in the end she does learn the repercussions of her actions. If anything, she's just more predisposed to making bad decisions. But making those decisions and later learning why she shouldn't have done what she did is a part of growing up as a more selfish person. She is at that age right now where she does have to do a sort of trial and error to learn how to act in future situations. So is Maggie a likable protagonist? Let's dig into that.
Yes! I mean, oh.
Don't buzz away. The Buzz on Maggie will be right back.
Here we go. Back to the Buzz on Maggie.
I think a lot of the frustration comes from her repetitive actions. Like in episode 6, she ignores her baby sister, resulting in her basically running away. In the end, she trades a coveted item of banned merchandise back for her sister without hesitation, learning how invaluable her siblings are. But in the next episode, in an attempt to both babysit her neighbors for money and her little brother at the same time, she locks Puppy in the closet, prioritizing herself and her career over helping her little brother. The format of the show was one of non-sequential episodic storytelling, meaning each episode episode is contained within itself and can be watched completely out of order. For a young kids show, this was a popular technique because to be successful, a kid should be able to start the series whenever and not feel like they're missing anything. Because of this, we don't get to see any character development past each 10-minute segment of Maggie, meaning she makes a lot of the same mistakes over and over again for the sake of each episode's plot demands. That being said, I think she's a very likable protagonist. Although she shouldn't be acting so manipulative in the first place, she does get redeemed over and over again. I think all kids around this age of maturity are prone to narcissism. You're at that age where you can't get a lot of the things that you want because you're not old enough, but you're also starting to become old enough where you start to gain a lot of new responsibilities, like babysitting your siblings or navigating relationships at school. And putting that into perspective, Maggie actually has a ton of redeeming qualities and teaches some pretty valuable lessons to kids that are watching and see themselves in Maggie's behavior. We also get to see how she is with others thanks to her best friend Raina, who is in a large percentage of the episodes. She is very similar to Maggie, but tends to have a bit more of the brains between the two, often not putting up with every self-centered idea or plan that Maggie comes up with. Raina also isn't as naturally gifted as Maggie in the creative fields, but excels in fashion. The series was created by Dave Polsky, who prior to Maggie had experience working as a writer with comedian Cedric the Entertainer and Keenan Ivory Wayans, as well as a few episodes of Comedy Central's South Park. As a creator, an overarching main influence for his work is Warner Brothers' Looney Tunes, which had a form of slapstick comedy that was elevated by the understanding of the characters involved. For The Buzz on Maggie, director Dave Wasson explained that their influences came from a mix of old Tex Avery, Warner Brothers cartoons, and Disney shorts. Their characters wear pairs of gloves, and in Maggie's case, 2 pairs of gloves, which are very reminiscent of early Mickey Mouse cartoons. While Disney has confirmed that the gloves made it easier to animate and emphasize hand movement, it was also about humanizing the animals. Viewers would be more comfortable watching human hands. I say speak for yourself, bud. This is also a technique used for Maggie. Flies don't really have hands. They just have extensions of their legs, basically. And how's Maggie supposed to rock out on her guitar without opposable thumbs? These are the real hard-hitting questions. The character design is probably one of the most talked about aspects of this show. With huge, buggy eyes and a very unique way of imagining anthropomorphic insects, the character designer George R. Gutierrez was nominated for an Annie Award in 2006 for his work. And I think he did a fantastic job at making insects look both like insects and humanoid. As before this, here is how I would envision it.
But now the dream is over.
There's a lot of creative freedom that comes with a completely microscopic and made-up world in a garbage dump. With a cool overarching theme of trash, there's a lot of fun twists to everyday items, and like Wasson says, who can resist building a whole city out of garbage? I mean, he right. And I can't help but worry because their civilizations are so small, one wrong step and the entire neighborhood is wiped out. But luckily, it seems that the humans in their world tend to leave them alone and not shake things up too much. It was animated by a lot of the team that also worked on Mucha Lucha, as that series was just ending as The Buzz on Maggie was picking their team for production. Animated all on Flash, the director of the show describes how they were lucky to have been able to get such experienced Flash animators from the Mucha Lucha crew. He considers the software to just be a tool for the animator, like an electric pencil, and when done correctly in the right hands of someone experienced, shouldn't look any different from a 2D hand-drawn animation. To all the animators out there, is that a spicy take? It kind of sounds like a spicy take, but please don't come for me, I'm very little. The voice acting is great too. Maggie is voiced by Jessica Daisico, Aldrin is voiced by David Kaufman, Pupert is voiced by Tom Adcox Hernandez, Raina is voiced by Cree Summer, and Tara Strong voices both Bella as well as Maggie's popular girl arch nemesis, Dawn Swatworthy. And Mr. and Mrs. Pesky are voiced by Susan Tolsky and Brian Doyle. But sadly, fun animation and world-building design along with memorable and unique voices wasn't enough to keep the show alive.
But keep it here, because the Buzz on Maggie is up next.
Just over 2 months after the series aired, animator on the show Sean Zellez posted on his personal blog that the series was cancelled. He explains that it was mainly because of the lack of international success that the executives at the network were looking for and were disheartened by not seeing, specifically from England and Australia. They decided to just call it quits instead of investing more time into the show to change the series to a more marketable one in other countries. In the United States, it was a completely different story. It was performing really well and critics raved about the series, giving it great reviews and boosting its viewership to an American audience. In addition to the Annie nomination for character design that I mentioned earlier, it also was nominated for an Emmy in 2006 for its theme song Just the Way I Am by Bob Thiele Jr. and Dylan O'Brien. No, not that Dylan O'Brien. But like I said, despite its success in the United States, Disney was just not looking to stay the course with this one. Creator Dave Polsky moved on from the series to really find his niche as a writer for 5 years on My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. He says that revisiting Maggie years later is very bittersweet for him, but talks really highly of his experience working on the series as a creator and executive producer this time, not just as a writer like in a lot of the other things he has worked on. Despite the anger that some of the crew had about its premature cancellation, Polsky has learned to think positively on how Maggie has influenced the work he did on My Little Pony. He says that they do both have similarities. In Maggie, there is only one protagonist instead of 6, but she, much like the ponies, is a very unconventional female protagonist, and her experiences that the stories would tell were not typical to a girly cartoon you would have seen at the time. He says, "It's been wonderful for me to be part of Pony because that is the creative impulse that brought me to Maggie." Polsky did specify that he would love to do more stuff on his own like what he did with Maggie, but he didn't explicitly specify if he'd return to Maggie should the series call for a revival, which is unlikely, but he did say that he was proud of what they were able to create. Personally, I don't think that a reboot would offer anything different than what the series has already provided. I don't think it would particularly perform well or unwell, and also there's not too much push from fans for Disney to revisit the show. In fact, it's informally regarded as one of the most forgotten shows that Disney aired, so while we may get some more projects created by Polsky, it's most likely that we won't be seeing any more from the buzz on Maggie. It's just weird to think that with the success the show was finding in the States, wouldn't have led to Disney finding a way to rework what wasn't working for its international audience. When you have shows like American Dragon Jake Long, for better or for worse, getting completely reworked for its second season to give the show more of a chance, I guess Disney didn't see a path forward for Maggie due to it not being a week-to-week story-driven action show. I think there was a lot here that makes the show great, and to be labeled as forgotten is a shame. The characters were fun, the world was interesting, and the concept of the show could have been played around with for a while longer. At least that's how I feel about it. But just like the lifespan of a fly, the buzz on Maggie was sadly short-lived. But what about you? What are your thoughts on the buzz on Maggie? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.